Brahman,
Here.
Reagan, Hamilton,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Ridley.
Here.
And now if you would all please join me in our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1C would be the approval of tonight's agenda for this special meeting.
Motion approved.
Got a motion for Brad.
Second.
Second, Mana. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Our agenda has been approved. Number 2 is the only item on the agenda. Again, we're calling it a work session. So it's something we've really never done, but just kind of lay the ground rules. I'm hoping for some conversations, some suggestions. I want it to be a two-way conversation with the council, staff, anything that wants to come up. So we're looking for ideas and things that will help us maybe come to some kind of a solution. It won't happen tonight. It's not on the agenda, but we're here to learn. So with that, I would ask that because we're on the owl and I think we're pitch on.
I don't see him, but
Okay, they'll maybe jump on, but we're zooming. So anyone that wants to, did you want to say anything opening?
I can start off with a few things just to get us off kind of questions that were brought up at the last meeting, just to roll forward from what everyone will find. So one of the things that came up or was discussed online was well, the city should have programs that are helping fund these projects. So I wanted to remind everybody of the STAR program that we have. So that's stabilize, tear down, and rehabilitate. So that's our housing program. And so the pieces of that were our rental housing inspection to stabilize housing, our tear down program, which is where the city's acquiring properties that are vacant and dilapidated and demolishing those, putting those back on the market for low to no cost to vendors. And I think we've had right now we're looking at our third just in the commercial population of those lots being reprocessed. So we had one at 813 South 6, that's not right, South 16th. 900 block of South 16th. We have a house going up there. On 10th Street, between Madison and Franklin. We have a house that's being constructed there on those. Indian Hills is used to few lots that have been acquired through that program. And then the lot at 1001 West Washington, those are all products of that program. So we are seeing things being built on infill lots from that. And right now it looks like we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 lots available in town that are bare or will be demolished here in the near future.
How many did you say, Jason?
I think 17 right now. And those are the ones that we fully own, not the ones that are in process, which I think Chief Moore brought me a list of about 27 that were in the process that are vacant or just dilapidated with what they shouldn't be occupied.
Now, are those lots available for bid or can we negotiate if they build something?
Both. And so just I guess going through the ways that we're able to let these properties or sell these properties. So we have the ability to include them in a larger economic development agreement. So if somebody wanted to come and say, I'll build 6 houses, we could contribute lots as our match to that. And our benefit that we're getting from that is the house is built, so we don't have to take cash for it necessarily. The second way is public bidding process. So that's where we put it in the paper. We accept bids on it. We've seen several of those come in. We just have a public hearing for it. The third is we get an offer from somebody that sets a price on it. And usually that's one that will come from a neighboring property for a vacant lot that's just not quite buildable when we see that one. But it's kind of a reverse public bid where somebody puts a number out there, people can object to it, and if they want to come over the top, they can during that public hearing. And so when we look at these the way we prioritize these, lots and the distribution of them, so if we had two people bidding the exact same amount, the way that we rank them would be, for the construction of a new residence would be our primary goal. Development of another structure such as a garage that's to an adjacent property. And then the third would be the price offered. So it might be one of those things that somebody's offering $1,000 plus building a house, where another person just is $2,000 is gonna leave it bare. That there's more value in that $1,000 offer. So that's one of the ones. And then proposals from adjacent property owners. We don't necessarily want to see people from out of town seeing a great deal for, $1,000 lot and taking it. So looking at adjacent property owners, if we're not able to find somebody that's actually going to do a build on a lot, are our priorities on that portion of the program. And then in addition to that, we offer a $2,000 rebate, sorry, not rebate, cash payment to the local transfer station for owners that are struggling to tear down properties that need to be remediated. So far, we've had 9 people take advantage of that. And why that works for us is we're using TIF dollars to fund that program. So we're looking at the growth that comes from demolishing a house that's effectively worth $0. And usually whenever a house is shown on the assessor site as $0 or $1,000, in reality, it's a negative valuation on that because it's bringing down the property value of all the surrounding properties. So it's worth us investing $2,000 to demolish it because we avoid the $10,000 it will cost us in legal fees and demolition, but it also saves those other properties around it from being brought down in value. The city purchases some lots from owners. We are the buyer of last resort. So usually when we're making those offers, it's in the $2,500 range. And why that number is important is that's roughly what it costs us to go through the legal proceedings to get a house on abandonment. So if we can get a property just in a cash purchase, as opposed to having to go through the courts, it basically puts the money in the hands of the owner of the house as opposed to the lawyers in the courts. So that's the advantage of us buying them outright. Third is buying via tax sale. We generally don't buy directly from tax sale. Something you'll see in the city council meeting is a property that was purchased on tax sale by a company that's what they do is they basically go out and they buy tax sales sight unseen from all over the place. We have a pretty good relationship in being able to get those on the secondary market. So we're not out buying tax certificates usually because I think it's a bit predatory. But at the same time, if there's a problem that has to be resolved, sometimes you have to be the outlet to get a property resolved through those secondary tax sales. And then the last one and probably the more expensive route is the 657A abandonment procedure. So that is a long court process. It usually takes 9 months to a year to get a property, and it has to have certain blighting structured with it. So utilities get disconnected. It's housing animals. Nobody's lived there. Elements of the exterior or have like holes in the roof, things like that. So it has to have those blighting elements, and we go before the court and request possession of that through a court process. So I think that's the highlights of, how we acquire properties. We have been pretty effective in that. And I would say that prior to starting the STAR program, we were looking at 2 to 3 houses per year that we were able to accommodate. Right now, I think last year we did 13. So, 10-fold on what we're able to get done. And these are the worst of the worst. So these are ones that are uninhabitable and have been effectively abandoned by the owner. So they're not ones that we are not keeping people out of houses to get control of these. These are ones that have been abandoned, whether that's from a death or long-term incarceration and not being able to have property anymore. So with life sentences, for example, or structures that shouldn't have been inhabited and have basically squatters living in them, in squalid conditions.
Jason, is the whole city considered a TIF district?
No. So we have an urban renewal district, so you take a circle around, I'd say about 3/4 of the town. So like Gulfview and Bella Vista are in that area, some of First Street, and go there to town inside of that district. But I would say, yeah, 75% of the main original area of Centerville is included in that. In both the urban renewal area and in the smaller TIF circle that's drawn in there that we can actually pull some funds from. And with that TIF, we're in the second year of receiving funds from the TIF. So the first year, it was very low, it was like $3,800, which is not very much growth. But then we're seeing in this next year, that number has gone up to about 300,000. So that's largely from the growth of properties. There are some commercial buildings that have been on tax abatement that are now off tax abatement. So they look like White's Animal Hospital is now fully on our tax rolls, where that was an example of the STAR program before STAR existed, would be that site.
Thank you.
And so the additional incentives we have, we do have a cash incentive for new construction. So on any of the properties that were in the urban renewal area that previously had a structure on them, if a new property is built there and its valuation is over $200,000, the builder can receive up to $9,000 in a cash payment for that construction when it's completed. We've had one person take advantage of that. Their house value is a little low, so it was only worth the $7,500 of that $9,000, but it was still a cash incentive that I think was the difference between one type of countertop and another for them. So they're investing it back into the properties. So that growth. And then I guess the counter side to that, so if people aren't able to take advantage of that, if cash incentive, we have the tax abatement to go with it, which is a 5-year tax abatement, where in the first year they're getting 75% of their overall taxes abated. And it's on the front end valuation, so that means that it's all taxes. So your school and your county taxes are also being reduced in that process, as opposed to using another, I guess, state code procedure. You only get to have the city portion taken off. This actually on the front end is reducing that overall burden. So 75% the first year, 60% the second year, 45, 30, 15, 0. So over 5 years to get that. So it ends up being about that same $9,000, $10,000 mark, depending on people's individual tax situation with their what other.
They have to pick between the two.
Yeah, because they use opposite functions. So if you were to evade all those taxes, you wouldn't generate the revenue for the cash with that. And so those are our incentive programs that we have that we pulled together. And then working with Lockridge, we're working on a program right now, just here in the last week, and PACT on developing a pre-approved buildings catalog for infill housing. I know one of the things that came out of the earlier discussions was, well, the cost of getting engineered plans is expensive, especially when we have these tight lots and there are some zoning things to work out for them. So what this catalog would be 5 to 6 pre-purchase building designs that are already engineered, with the city's development program being the one that buys those and buys the rights to them. But they'll be pre-fit to the lots that we have. And basically it'll help you skip the kind of those first 2 steps. So already have your engineered site plan, engineered drawings. And so hopefully that will speed through that process and reduce the overall cost.
What's the smallest square footage you can build?
Smallest square footage is 800 square feet by our current code. don't know if the minimum frontage actually supports that math. I know that's in one section, it says 800 square feet, but I know we also have a requirement that you have to be at least 24 feet wide, so. I guess that would be what, 24, yeah, but it was 800 divided by 24, what that would be for.
Yeah.
35.
Yeah, so really, I don't know if 34 by 50 is a reasonable house size.
Mhm.
So there may be some conflict between those two numbers as to what the reality is. I know when you look at the state code for when they're looking at like, with their new, accessory dwelling structures that they allow, that they have 1,000 square foot minimum to them. So it's actually a little bit larger than what our minimum housing size is, what those are allowed.
So with the,
800 include the garage or exclude the garage?
I assume it's livable space.
Livable.
Yep. So it wouldn't include the garage or basement.
so with the Lockridge, engineer plans, I know last meeting, there was some discussion that you have to turn in, the trusses have to be certified, for the, would that be a requirement for Lockridge plans, or is that up to the
I think
truss
we're trying to work
manufacturer?
through that, because I think there was some question about how the process for engineered trusses actually comes out, because it's not like you buy those from the factory that has the stamp on it, so.
All of ours are, it has the.
Yeah, so, I think that'd be part of the process, that we would have those things already in the plans. And so you might still need to have like your shop drawings from your HVAC and your fire or your electrical and things like that.
Okay.
That still keeps going.
I do have a few thoughts from the last meeting that I had. I'm thinking that Centerville could afford a part-time building inspector that would take over the rental inspections as well. And with that, I think we need to kind of limit what we're looking at as far as inspections. I would assume the basics. The first would be the footing inspection. The electrical is included by the state. The framing inspection while they're doing the electrical, and then a finished walkthrough to finalize, give occupancy of the house. And above that, I would, for the pre-planning, the site plan, I know that was one that we had discussion on that needed to be engineered. I don't necessarily think it needs to be engineered. I think it needs to be drawn out somewhere, and most computer systems can do that. With the house to fit on that plan, so that can be reviewed. We already have the setbacks and we have the widths already written into the codes, so
And Brad, just to clarify, are you suggesting code changes to the?
I'm not. I'm just saying what we're looking at for inspection, because we're kind of sitting on two different ends of the spectrum. So Centerville's been over here for a long time, and then our representative last meeting wanted to take us all the way over to here. So we really haven't discussed anything in between there, so. And from my research, not every city inspects everything that is current code, so, I think it's kind of up to the council on what parts of that we enforce, what parts of that we look at. The blower node test, we were talking about that earlier, there's very few, if any, that look at that test, so.
Yeah, I guess I do have a few more notes, and I know that was another piece of research was, Chris, you'd asked, what are comparable cities doing? And, so I took literally the population list in the state of Iowa as to where we are, so we fall right around Winterset and Osceola. Winterset obviously a little bit closer to the metro than us, so, they're using the 2021 International Residential Code, International Building Code, with BK as their inspector. Osceola, again, they're an hour from the metro, they're close to 2 hours. They're using the 2021 IRC and IBC, and they use BK for their commercial, or BK will help them train their in-house inspectors before they start that. And then there's us. We have our code states that we're following the International Building Code. It doesn't specify a year, so it basically defaults to whatever the current version is. We get to typically give them the guidance, the 2018 version, because that's the last version that we have the physical paper copies of here. They're 3-4 $400 for a set of them, so. And then I know Cherokee was mentioned, so they're slightly smaller at 5,100. And they used the 2012 IRC for the rental code. And they've adopted the state building code as their baseline enforcement. The state is the one that does that for them. So that ends up being the 2024 building code for theirs. And then Sheraton, a little bit smaller than us, but obviously some pretty comparable. They use the 2015 property maintenance code, and then they use the 09 residential code and building code, and the 2024 international fire code, which that's actually probably the most stringent of all of the different codes is the fire code. So it's surprising they've gone that far, but Sheraton also does their own HVAC, plumbing and electrical code inspection outside the state process. And then I know we mentioned about Albia. They actually haven't adopted any sort of code with that. They have some general rules, and the general rules look very much like they were copy and pasted from the International Building Code. And so when they do their inspections, I think kind of in line with where you were going about, you know, how many inspections is the right amount. I think they actually might be on the right track with that, which is they do a foundation inspection, frame inspection, and then a lath and wallboard, so a drywall inspection, and then a final inspection. So that one's down to what was that? 4 instead of the 11 that were proposed, and then they don't deal with the electrical, plumbing,
Right.
HVAC.
The state does the electrical inspections for
Yep,
everybody,
I think-
so.
And not everywhere though. So Otama doesn't, they do their own electrical inspections there.
Yeah, I think you have the option to do your own. but
Yeah,
we've
the state on it.
never done
Yeah,
in-house
yeah.
electrical.
I don't think we're big enough to do that.
No, there's no reason to.
No, not state's gonna be able to do it.
We, in Otama, so we build over there and there's 3, sometimes 4 inspections, mostly 3. Like you said,
Mhm.
footings, you know, foundation, framing, and I call final.
Mhm.
So your occupancy.
We get mechanical inspected too.
Pardon?
We get inspected too.
Okay, so, but I'm not part of that over
Yeah,
there.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when
We
they're,
do we do over there.
when you're inspecting mechanical, what do they look for?
On my end?
On your end, we were talking about the books and the permits last
So-
time.
Yeah, you file a permit with the city, I think it's like, I'd have to look up $50-60. And then that includes, I think it's just one inspection, honestly. They just check for minor code stuff, like
Mhm.
flues, venting, gas. They want all the ducts sealed and taped, which is not a big deal. Mostly just gas and clearances and things like that, like my exhaust is too close to the window or something, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's pretty simple. So, but I mean, it's. I think what the city, I don't think you talk.
You know, that's what we're.
I think what the city has adopted is fine. Following the building codes that exist is great. Following, the plumbing code would be fantastic. And following all those codes is fine. It's just the way about where it was going about it. When I talked to, Iowa's largest HVAC and mechanical contractor, you know, they do the manual J, the manual D, manual S, and no blower door testing. And they do simple, permits like they've always done in the past. I'm from the Des Moines area originally, and basically with the city, this is what I would propose the city do. You register with the city. So once a year, I pay the city $100. I'm a registered contractor with the city. I have insurance, I have a license, I'm registered through the state. The city now recognizes me as a contractor. They want to build a house. I come to you and say, hey, I need a permit for a new house. It's $60-70. You inspect it twice usually. And then I move on. This would also go in place for residential replacement systems. Let's say Darren's furnace goes out in his house, he wants a new furnace, we pull a permit for $40. Put a furnace in his house, city comes inspect it, says it's good to go. So there's more continuous opportunities for I don't want to say the city generate revenue, but to support someone to do that inspection. If you look at every system replaced in town, I mean, we do hundreds of them a year. There's that $50 a pop between me and, you know, Austin Mormon and, you know, those guys, you're gonna have revenue for that. I don't think it's smart to combine the building inspector with the HVAC and mechanical inspector, because it's a lot. We go by the 2018 mechanical code. I have the book at my desk, I know it pretty well. That would be the base of that. The plumbing inspector could be the same as mechanical. That needs to happen desperately, because there's a lot of bad plumbing going on out there. That would also be a plumbing fee. You would do groundwork plumbing, inspect that, rough in, and then final. So there's three steps to that, 2 steps to HVAC, and 1 step for replacement. And I could lay this all, I'd be more than happy to draw it out. I kind of laid it out to Brad one time on a message and how we could lay this out, and this would work like most cities. And then I talked to the head of Iowa State Inspector, that basically enforces the entire state for inspections. There's a lot of confusion on law enforcement, things like that. Yes, it is code to go by 2024 mechanical or building. Iowa has the 2012 IAC Energy Code. Iowa has the 2018 Mechanical and Plumbing Code. Those are state law. That does not mean the city, it's up to the city on what they look over the shoulder at. What that does is protects the homeowner. If like I went in as a contractor and did some really crappy work, even if you guys didn't catch it, it allows the homeowner or person to sue me, not necessarily the city. But the city does have some responsibility, have some skin in the game, make sure that building is safe, make sure it's right. So, do you fine tune comb it? That's up to the city. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that, you know, is overstepping, but on the newer code, they're not enforcing. So, I think a system and a plan can be developed that's fair and affordable for everybody. And the city gets what they need and know things are done right and safe. And the homeowner feels comfortable as well and can afford it.
Do you have to do a manual J in all those other manuals you mentioned in a tunnel?
No. It's funny though, the energy company, for when we did the larger rebates, they would require it. Like RDC requires a manual J to, because they're gonna be writing a 2000 check, they want to back up that you put the right stuff in. Manual J's aren't hard, those are not hard at all. If you have a good set of plans. Yeah.
So what about like us? So that hurts us because we don't, our whole thing is we develop this as we go. We don't go out and get a full working electrical diagram before we even start our house. We don't know. We develop it as we go with the students.
Right.
So that would, some of this would, you know.
Well, I think that's why I said, if the system that the city puts in place is a basic permit system.
Right, I'm just saying.
Right, there's gotta be
Those are
things.
concerns of ours.
Right.
Electrical, plumbing, HVAC, those are all things that are developed as we go.
Right.
So
But your footprint is there when you start the
our
house.
footprint is, it even changes as we go, but minor.
Not, interior wall moving is one thing, but you're not shifting a foundation to
Oh, yeah.
it once you're done. I mean.
Yeah, we have, sometimes, but it's not monumental, it might be a foot or 6
Right, right.
inches or something. I
Right.
mean,
But I wanna back up a little bit. Should we start out with a common objective? I mean, we can discuss 42 different lists of rules we should follow, but if we had a common objective first, we'd say, well, this doesn't meet our objective, this doesn't meet our objective. And I can make a couple suggestions, we can all add to it, but I'm thinking most consumers have a reasonable expectation of a quality built house, right? And I think, now you might have somebody who wants to build their own house, and they might wanna just build it willy-nilly, but that house might be on the market someday, so you still need a certain minimum expectation, so the next buyer comes in, I have an expectation this is gonna be reasonable up to code, right? And so that's the kind of enforcement I think we should be looking at, or oversight, is at the end of the day, we've got a home that's built, and it's reasonable expectations that the property line's in the right place, and the code's been followed, but you don't necessarily have to go down a 142 page list to make sure every code. This reasonable expectation, that would fit in with what Brad's talking about, periodic inspections.
And I would agree with you. What I'm kind of getting at is there's certain periods of homes within Centerville that have bad foundations. This one contractor came in, did all those foundations at the same time period. We want to get eyes on that stuff before it ever occurs.
Right.
And I'm sure the same with your houses. You're probably pretty similar in your house design when you're building these now, because since you've done so many.
No, we got away from that, after about 4 years. Now, every single one is different. Jason can attest to that. We don't wanna be a cookie cutter
Mhm.
place. We wanna, this is part of Centerville. We wanna make them make
Okay.
the city excited about doing it.
So do you guys draw your own designs?
Lots of times we will have a basic plan, we go to Lockridge. Scott, I think, pretty much does all of our drawings for us, and, we usually, myself or Lyle or my other instructor sits down with them, and we talk through everything as Scott's drawing.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like I say, it's only a floor plan, and, sometimes we get some elevations and a foundation plan. That's it.
But nothing you're doing on a basic inspection would cause any chaos.
No, not unless we had to supply everything up front.
Right, that, yeah, and I'm not saying do that either.
Right, and I don't agree with everything that the other fellow from BK was suggesting either. I agree with what you said, we can pick and choose what we need. You made the comment, you know, even though the speed limit is 25, you're driving 30 sometimes, you know, you can
Right.
pick and choose and do what you want, and,
Right.
I don't know. That's,
I didn't get to ask Jason, he was talking about different municipalities having different codes they've adopted, but what's more important is their enforcement process, you know? They would say, well, we're gonna follow 20 whatever code, but what are they enforcing, you know? And who's enforcing it?
Yeah, didn't I hear that from Jason as well last time he was here? Like he said, yeah, you guys kind of got the ship, tell me what you're gonna report.
That's what I was understanding.
Yeah.
We as a city can decide
correct, you guys can.
where, so, and that's kind of where we're, unfortunately, Bill and Pat, you got in at a very strange time and everything was thrown up in the air, and we need a list together so that going forward, you know what you're looking at. So, and what you can expect if you're gonna build a house, it needs to be like this, and this is a 12 points you need to make sure you hit, so.
This is why we have been here so many times to trying to show
Mhm.
where there's holes and where there's
Right.
good ones.
And I think that's what this meeting's for, is to get those
Right.
holes covered, so.
But I think it needs, the big thing is it needs to be done at home. And not somebody from Des Moines and
Mhm.
Sioux City or wherever they may be. I sent the paper around tonight and number one, they have to have at least a 24-hour notice before they come down. But we have a local inspector, and I've been there, done that. You can go in anytime you want. Somebody doing construction. As a city building official, you don't have to wait until a mistake was made.
I don't know if they legally can walk in on your property at any time. I think there's probably legal requirements, they have to
Yeah,
get permission.
so during the construction process, our code does say that the building official can make entry.
That's
At any time.
During building.
Really?
That's
Okay.
I've done that many times, but if I'm having to be going down to the south end to see, doing the inspection, and in between there and back to City Hall, if I go past another place where they're doing some construction, why not drop in and just keep yourself up to speed if nothing else?
Yep.
Of what's going on, and if there hadn't been something, you can have the problem correct it right then, and not 30 days later.
Yep, I'd agree.
Plus all the money that's going out of town. The money should be staying here. Last meeting, you folks passed the budget, and there is $90,000 set in there for inspection.
Mhm.
And right now, anytime I call for an inspection on footing or whatever, they have to come down here to the tune of about $540, and guess who pays for it? I do.
Well, Bill, I think, I think the B and K guys, that's come and gone. I think that we're pretty much in agreement that I think our building inspector hopefully is gonna be local. So I think we can maybe, am I fair to say that?
Yeah,
I think there's,
So I think,
that's what I
let's
was
put that
gonna
one to
say.
bed.
yeah.
I think there's sentiment amongst the members of the council to move to somebody local.
Right,
You know, with established codes that can be equally enforced fairly with, you know, appropriate fees for different levels of inspection. I guess my question, and Brad has proposed a part-time inspector, but can we do that with a part-time person? Do we really need a full-time person? Not that we've got that much construction, but we just want somebody knowledgeable and that can enforce it fairly across. And I guess my question, and I'll pose this to all you gentlemen and individuals, because you know building more than I do. You know, can you do it with a part-time person, or do we need to realistically hire a full-time position?
It all depends on what all you're going to inspect.
Yeah,
Well, and
exactly.
I think another piece of this is the rental inspections, which you're.
Well, true.
But I mean, I guess my question, and I asked this like in earnest. I don't understand why you wouldn't want your code to reflect what you're actually enforcing, in part so that we know it's being enforced equally and fairly. I think one of the things I'm concerned about, and I attempted to allude to this in the last meeting, is if and when we have someone local, and I'm not in disagreement, I'm just trying to understand. It's like, I think one of the concerns I have is if we move this in-house, not necessarily like just put aside where they live or where they're from for a second, but when we move that in-house, I think I would want to see that like code be equally and fairly enforced regardless of whether or not you know the guy or you went to high school with him, right? And so I would think a way to protect for that and also to take pressure off of whoever is in that position, right? If you've got like your cousin or your friend or whatever coming to you, like that's gonna be hard to negotiate and navigate a process if it's not like I'm enforcing the code right here, or here's really clearly what my job is to do. So I don't understand why we wouldn't want the code to enforce or the code to reflect what we're actually enforcing. That's my concern.
I think it is. It's just, we're just trying to say, let's come up with a checklist. Here it is. This is what we're gonna be looking for.
I think we
And
wanna
that's-
make it affordable.
And then, yeah, and
So-
reasonable.
And
What you're
VK,
saying is if it's 150 items, why aren't you inspecting all 150 items?
Why aren't, well, I think what I'm saying is why aren't we modifying the code to reflect what we actually want our building minimum standard to be in Centerville?
That should be up to us to have a meeting every so often to say, okay, we need to guide this ship another direction because we're seeing this stuff in the code. That maybe we need to start implementing over here and start saying, we're gonna start enforcing this.
Even the state doesn't enforce.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and I can vouch for that myself on electrical.
they don't have a
Electrical
plumbing
inspector.
inspector for the state? Is
Not
that
yet.
correct?
But I guess to your question, have you ever had it to where you got one guy that was electrical one day where he enforced one thing and the next day got different electrical inspector?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Different things.
Yeah,
So
there's
so, so how do you meet that standard, right? If one day you're not gonna be inspected on something, but the next day. you are.
It's all up to interpretation.
Well, it's like the tax code, honestly, if I'm being honest, like, I understand what she's saying. Like, oh, I don't like you, so I'm gonna ding you for everything I can. I've worked for that guy. I've had that inspector before going, but I've then I've had the guy who's went to high school with my dad, drove up and asked if anything was gonna blow up. I said, no, and he signed it off. It was a $10 million apartment complex. I never even looked at it.
That's what I want to avoid.
Right, I understand. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
But it is, I get, that's where she's coming from. I don't have a problem with the code at all. I just have a problem with $3,000 when he's telling us 20, that whole vehicle,
I hear
which we're
you, yeah.
beyond that, I get.
I think they put that one to bed.
Yeah, so that was my only biggest issue. We should follow the code. The city should adopt what Iowa's current code is. But then they need to nail it down. Okay, this is what we're minimally gonna inspect, and that's what they stick to and check off on every job.
And you see a problem.
You guys in college that do this for a living. I think your recommendations bring back to us is how many inspections? Are we talking about 3, 4, that you can kind of figure on that? There may be exceptions, but simplify it.
Right.
Be fair, make sure we're covered. The next guy, like one of you said, guy builds a house, then he sells it, the Newport guy comes in, oh, it's really shoddy built, you know? We don't want that. I mean, we're trying to avoid that.
If you have that checklist, it shouldn't be that.
Right.
But
So you guys are building the college houses. Who does your look through your inspections when you're building? You guys, as professors,
We
do
do.
that?
Right.
So what are you looking for as you're going through checking over?
Mostly it's just quality. You know, we can see instantly that, oh, shoot, we got a stud that's leaning out and, you know, just proud of everything else. We see those things. And we remedy right away.
So you see that in a pre-drywall when you're walking through?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cause we're in there, what, 6, 7 hours a day.
We have things like, you know, stairways, you know, you don't want short tread, height, steps and no head clearance, you know,
All those things.
reasonable things, and we do follow codes on stuff like that, but.
Even
But the
if I
reason
was
there's
building
codes
a
is because not all
special-
contractors are like that.
Right.
No, I get that. I mean, you need.
And that's why you need an inspector.
Yes.
And with the checkbook.
But
Yeah, yeah.
that answers your question, even when I was a building official, I used to live in those college homes.
Mhm.
There's no reason you can't.
Mhm. Yep.
Just another set of eyes.
Calm down yet.
I guess I have a question or comment, I guess, about,
Sure.
about this up there and acting. So, this part, where do you find this person, right? Number one, you have to have someone that knows all these trades for the most part, that can't be connected and tied to anyone doing the job.
Possible.
That's not gonna happen. It's a small town.
You know, I mean, just if we couldn't hire one of your people, right, to do the,
Everything should sound like.
you know. But that, I think it goes back to like honest, the integrity of it.
Right.
Right? So you couldn't, I mean, trying to find that person that's skilled enough, gets trained enough in that, but doesn't have their own construction company here in town. or-
Right, I think there's people out there.
There are,
Yeah,
so you're not gonna find a pink elephant, but you're gonna find someone who's close.
Sure.
Again, my biggest thing is your building inspector is typically not gonna be your mechanical and plumbing inspector. Those are just, your building inspector would be your, like, your rental guy, take care of whatever role that was, and then add building on. For the mechanical and plumbing, that, you'd almost need, you need another person for that. Really, it's a lot to remember. I mean, unless you really simplified it, which, then what are we doing this for, you know? So.
Brad, I'm gonna go back to one of your comments.
Sure.
When you were talking about bringing it in-house, I don't think financially that we can fill a part-time position with the revenues from inspection or the skills that we would need and, additional technology, but I have reached out to Hall Engineering to see what it would take to contract locally for that. You know, and we use their inspectors on our construction projects, so really it's taking what the approved plan is and seeing how it compares to.
So what would Hall Engineer charge to do an inspection?
And we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
But, based on what, like they do for our big construction, $60 an hour, which for a fully loaded, like, position here, that's.
That'd be a reasonable
everything what
cost.
we were paying in-house.
So it would still drive the cost down from a Des
Yeah.
Moines inspector.
Yeah, and you still have the local guy that,
Who wasn't built.
outside of the city loop, but also, and then I think the other comment, that Bill made about, we don't have $90,000 budgeted for inspection. We have $90,000 budgeted for our building department, but that includes nuisance mowing, and some software, all that stuff. So
Mhm.
in reality, we have about 30,000 for what that position would be.
And that's about what I was thinking for a
Yeah.
part-time person, any more than that?
Yeah, and so I know that some of the goals that we had, like even looking at the original inspection as we finished this third year and the full cycle of that. I know getting the fire department in a stable place to where they can do the rental inspection was one of the goals. Going forward, and then I think that having an outside contractor that is local for the building inspection is probably the most cost effective for us. We don't necessarily need to have that in-house building official, as well.
What kind of requirements will the city ask for the building inspector to have? Do they need to have you licensed under a certain,
That's what we still need to figure out is,
or what did our building inspector in the past have?
he was certified for like home inspections, like pre-real estate sale, like appraisal inspections. So before that, I don't think Frank had any sort of formal, thing other than having been the builder himself. Bill, I don't know if you had any formal certifications, and I don't think George Johnson had any formal certifications other than being.
When Bill was
police officer.
hired, they looked at his quality control experience in the Department of Defense in inspecting, airplane components and reading government code and whatever it's, and applying certain list of standards of inspections on a regular basis. That was the, and the fact that he was you know, not affiliated with persons in town and had come new into the community, so that's was the basis for this thing.
And
I'm just curious, is there any kind of component of Indian Hills program for building that deals with that end of it?
So, well,
I mean,
we teach all aspects of it.
I did
But
see they're having a new program for building inspections, I believe, didn't they?
What now?
I thought I saw a listing for a new program that they're offering.
No, not.
Inspections? No, okay.
Do they have any kind of testing, like code?
They do, I mean, there is a formal certification in building inspection and being a building official.
But that's basically what you need to know is code.
right,
Yeah.
And I guess when I'm looking at a building official inspector, sorry, Mike, but I don't look at him as being a code enforcer for nuisance grass. I look at him for, that's their job as a house and that's what they would spend their time. So it wouldn't be parked cars and other nuisance like that, so. Sorry, that's probably not one of your fun items
That's
in
our
there.
realm,
so-
always has been, so
Yeah.
we're good with that.
lighten your load.
Yeah.
So,
We got about 10 more minutes. We want to get our regular council meeting going at 6. Again, this is, I think, been informative. I think we can still communicate with you folks that are doing it on a daily basis. You're the ones I think we should lean on. That we want to protect city code and other residents that aren't. So, again, we had a nice visit with you guys a week or so ago. Jesse, certainly the college, but I think we've eliminated, we're getting away from the out of town. We're looking for that right person, to do that, because we want to build houses.
Sure.
We want people to build houses. God knows we want these lots, somebody puts something on those lots, we need the tax revenue. So we're not trying to make it difficult, and no building is expensive, materials are expensive, everything's gone up. Hourly labor has gone up, but we've got to do what we've got to do, but we've got to do it together. So,
Good thing gas is going down.
yeah, right. Who you listening to?
I just.
I doubt if you're listening to that guy.
I have 14 trucks on the road every day if you want to help.
I'd like to suggest that, you know, everyone who has some suggestions, I suggest we have 3 inspections. I suggest that the plumbing and HVAC be a separate inspection, you know, or some of those guidelines that you would recommend and kind of jot them down and submit them into the city so that they can kind of coalesce into a plan.
Well, to have a name. That Goodwood as an inspector.
Mayor, when do you expect or when do you want to have this ironed out so we can start looking at?
Well, I think I told us all 2 weeks ago, we need to do our
Mhm.
homework, and I think we're starting that.
Right,
We still have homework that needs to get done.
because VK is working on a month-to-month contract right now.
Correct,
So
correct. So, yeah.
they
I
would
mean,
take 30-day notice.
Because we got caught short when our
Mhm.
building inspector resigned, let's be honest, you know, so, we weren't planning for that.
Bonnie, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just, and I know we're short on time, so I would also invite anyone, I mean, I'd love to just like chat more with folks, I have a lot to learn, so, feel free to like send me an email, I think we could discuss more. But one thing I'm trying to understand is the call for local, and to be clear, not opposed, I'm just trying to understand what we're actually saying. Are we saying the call for local because we want someone with familiarity with the community and with the people in the community? Or is this purely financial? Because if the call is to cut costs, can we say that? I'm trying to understand what we're asking.
Well, I think as the city council, you have to advertise the job and anybody in the world can come and apply for it. But
And then we have to
obviously,
figure
you're
out
gonna
what,
keep it affordable.
Right.
Somebody's not gonna move 2 hours or commute 2 hours to be here.
Establish our code, standardize it moving forward.
Yeah.
It's less about being local, it is about efficient. And
Efficiency. Okay,
efficient
thank you.
for the outrageous costs we were looking at that previous situation. I think it's more about efficiency and understanding.
Okay.
So,
I would be more than happy to completely develop an entire program and email to all of you. I've already
so
got it done.
with your stores with Lockridge in your other communities, what are they doing that you're seeing?
Just depends on the location, like, I did some buildings in Jasper County, which is Newton. You build a 20 by 16 garage, it has to have an engineered stamp. Which basically we send our plans to an engineer and they look it over and put a stamp on it for $800 or whatever the fee is. Depends on, if it's a house, it's a different story, but, they have typically 3 inspections, or 3 or 4 inspections. We don't, we're not there for that part of it, but, like you said before, the footings, the framing, and a final walkthrough. Electrical and plumbing, that's different. Different municipalities have, their own, not their own electrical. Does it, anybody that you've ever worked with have their own, any city have their own electrical and stuff? Someone has their own in-house.
But they have to be.
They have to recognize.
recognized by the state.
Which is,
Yeah, so they.
I don't know what that process is.
Yeah.
But there's no point in the city doing that if it's fixed and provided.
Right.
And supposedly in a year to 2 years, the state's gonna do plumbing as well. We'll see. They've said that for a long time, but yeah.
And at that point, at that point, maybe our rules would have to change. If the
Yeah.
states can offer the plumbing inspector, it would obviously change what we're looking for, so.
Or get recognized by the state to continue doing what you're doing.
Back to your original question, I would like to see us go through whatever process we need to go. Maybe not by the next second meeting in May, but certainly by the first meeting in June. Is that realistic that we can?
Yeah, piece it together. I mean, as far as actually getting any new code implemented, we're still waiting on our recodification, so that could be a month from now, or it could be 3 months from now, depending on the other pieces of the code that we can pull together.
That's the part where they're talking, I'm hearing basically 3 or 4 inspections. Give or take, could be exceptions, but is that kind of what we're saying, that would be fair to the builder and would be fair to, as we protect our citizens and the council?
Well, did I hear you say that you kind of have a plan outline that you would?
Yeah, I
recommend?
started drawing it out and I've sent Brad some previews of it, but I would be more than happy to.
So if you would
Yeah, we'll-
create that basic.
We'll work with
and let us
Jesse,
look at
we're
it.
gonna work with Lockridge.
Mine's gonna be
work
focused
with
on
the
Main
college,
Street.
Yeah,
and we'll,
yeah.
Right.
Rick, we work with somebody like, I mean, I know what you've done over the years. I mean, we need people like that we're open to suggestions. Truly, you're the guys that.
If you guys have a building inspector that's following the code, like, there's no need to have, like, Jasper County engineered plans, like, as long as they know that a 2x6 will not span 28 feet.
Right.
Or something like if the inspector should know that sort of thing, and then there's no need to have it.
And even if they don't know, you got Google, get a guy, look it up,
Yeah,
it's there.
there's span charts everywhere.
Yeah.
But some of that, if it's on the plan, you build it by the plan.
Right.
Then you're not having to change it later because you didn't follow.
Right.
Then they'll pass inspection.
Right.
Because you went by the engineering on the plan. So,
But the engineering is expensive.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I covered.
I think whatever the meeting is, middle of June, we all have work to do to get this done. Hopefully we need your help, okay? But if we wanna
That's
do it,
realistic.
let's get it, and again, where we find that Mr. or Mrs. Wright, we'll look, and again, we'll again look for
Can I
help.
say something real quick?
Sure.
This is kind of response to Anna's question about local versus Des Moines or whatever. You and Justin used to stop by our building sites in the
Right.
hills. And we'd look it over, we'd have conversation, we'd develop relationships,
Right. Yeah.
Same way we have relationships with law enforcement and whoever else is policing us around and different things we do, and I think that's a valuable thing to have, is a local relationship. And I think maybe it doesn't come across so harsh then if you are needing to correct something like, you say, you dumbass, you don't build it that way, we need to change that. Instead of somebody coming along with our
Right,
fist
no.
and say, you're not doing it right.
Again, our goal is to make it as easy as possible. We are not trying to say, we don't want you to build in Centerville. That is not what any of us are even remotely saying or thinking, so.
Can you build metal homes? Yes, but it still has to be on footing.
Any other thoughts? Have we learned anything tonight? Has this been helpful, beneficial?
It's been
I
a good
think
exchange
I
of
think
ideas.
it's a good understanding basis.
Okay, so again, Jesse, you guys, we want to communicate, kind of giving ourselves a little June 15th to have something, because I know I've said all along, that I'd like to have something that the office staff could have. The person comes in and says, I would like to build a $200,000 house. Just in general, what it's gonna cost me to get my building permit. What do I have to do? And it's just like a menu in a restaurant. Cost you this, this, and this, and this is what, then we all understand each other. And that you,
Every day, yeah, my phone, so if I can help.
okay, anything else for the good of the cause?
No, we appreciate the input.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
well, we sure do. Thank you all. And again, it's not done. We still need your help, okay? We're just ending this special meeting. Okay, that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's city work session.
So moved.
Got a motion from Darren? Second, Chris. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. We'll start our next meeting in a few minutes, but again, folks, please communicate with us, okay? Suggestions, write it down and give it.
That'll be in before the 8th, because I'm going to surgery and I'm out for 2 months. So,
You got plenty of time to do that.
right. I got-
Recording stopped.
All right.